Right, there we go. So record. So now we can discuss gut. So what were the two things that you enjoyed most about the book?
Probably the two facts that I learned that I've always wanted to know the answer to, but I've never actually bothered to go out and look for it. Number one was, how does saliva get into our mouth? I now know that we've got the thing under the tongue there and the two little nodules here at the side of the mouth. I never knew that they were a functional thing. I just thought they were little lumps that we had in our mouths. And also, I've always wondered, how does the nutrients get absorbed out of the food into the bloodstream? And it turns out that the small intestine, it's got just hundreds or thousands or millions, I don't know how many, of little veins that run into it, little capillaries that, and the nutrients are taken out through those. I've always wondered, because I thought it's like it's a solid thing, like, well, not solid, you know what I mean? It's tissue. Food can't just absorb through that. How's the nutrients getting out? And the answer is the bloodstream takes it. Fascinating. I absolutely love that.
Oh. I've just been looking, and to find out how many there are, it's because each villi has microvilli, and it's the microvilli that have the blood capillaries, I think, if my science is correct. And I think it has 100 times greater surface area than our skin. So that's pretty big. And yeah, it would be 7 kilometers worth.
Wow.
I think, if it was spread out smooth. So that is quite impressive. I found I think in the actual meeting in the book club, one of the things that came up between everyone was that it's so in depth with the science that if you don't already have a previous knowledge, and if you don't plan to look further into it, it's almost overwhelming. So she's obviously she's a doctor, I think. I don't think she's a professor. Yeah, and she's done her research, and the research is emerging. So there aren't very many conclusions in the book. A lot of the evidence is done on mice. A lot of it is the hypothesis is this, and we think it might be this. But so one of the conclusions was it would be nicer to have a more definite it is this. But I can reframe that into, I think it's really exciting that this research is now being done. So however many 20 years ago, when neuroscience was just emerging, we now know all that we, because of the brain scanning and because of the 20 years of looking into it, we know so much more. I don't, because I haven't studied it, but there are scientists out there who do. And this is going to happen over the next 20 years with the gut and the brain connection. So one of the things that I found the most interesting was where it described how our gut is our biggest sensory organ. And so unlike our, like, it doesn't, and it's been shown to light up areas of the brain that respond to different things. So we can't see inside our gut because it doesn't go straight to the part of the brain that allows us sight, which is obviously through our eyes as one of our sensory organs that allow us to see. But it does affect our mood, and it goes directly into the subconscious. So when we're thinking, we like that gut reaction and our intuition, and we're not aware of it consciously. So we're aware of what we're looking at. If we choose to look at something, we're not aware. It does go straight to our subconscious too. But with our gut, we can't choose to consciously be aware of what we're feeling. It just goes into our brain. Does that make sense? That makes sense to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, that does make sense to me. I think a good way to illustrate it actually is if we talk about how IBS works with the brain, because
I don't know why the noisiest thing is happening outside right now, but carry on speaking.
So anyway, if we think about it in terms of how IBS works with the brain, when a person's having a flare-up of IBS, it will actually light up certain regions of the brain that do with the subconscious that give feelings of dysphoria, and can also increase feelings of anxiety, dysphoria, general malaise, and that's directly from the gut itself. And so, like you say, the gut talking to the brain, it's the same. most of the body has the connection with that subconscious part of the brain. And those parts of the body wouldn't function without that connection. And then, so it's not connected to our conscious, connected to our subconscious. Because obviously, if we were aware of all that, imagine being able to like just think and feel everything that was happening in your gut all the time. That'd be weird as anything. No wonder we can't do that. But for me, it just highlights the importance of just being as healthy as we can in our food choices. Like being, making sure we get as much fresh food as we can, as little processed food as we can, and as much variety as we can, because that's, from reading the book and from other research, that's what the gut seems to need to keep it nice and healthy. But the connection that you're talking about, what I think that highlights the most importance of is just exactly that. You need to be healthy to have a good mood. And actually, if I go back to when I suffered with depression, so when I was at university, my depression got really quite bad. Now, there was factors to do that. I was drinking far too much alcohol. That was a factor. My anxiety was basically what created the depression in the first place. That was a factor. But when I think about the other factor, most days my food choices would go something like this. Breakfast would be 4 slices of very processed Scottish plain bread, which is a type of white bread that is just ultra processed, ultra tasty, but ultra processed. 4 slices of that and a cup of coffee. I'll go and I'll pick up some chocolate crisps on the way to college or uni. Oh, not to mention a bottle of Iron Brew. There's always got to be a bottle of Iron Brew. Diet though, because I don't like the sticky taste of the sugary ones. Then for lunch, there's a good chance I'm going to have a couple of chip rolls, or if I'm feeling the need to get a little bit of nutrients in, it's going to be a chip roll and a tuna roll. And then by the time dinner come round, I've probably already had a couple of beers. And then dinner might be, I lived at home throughout university, so it might be whatever my mum's made for me, or it might be pizza or kebab on the way home to get whatever my mum's made for me, to then get back out and have some more alcohol and another pizza or kebab or something at the end of that night. Like, I cannot think of a single nutrient I was taking on board during that period. So my gut was unhappy and my brain was deeply unhappy. So to me, because that's my lived experience, this book explains it to me why that was so profound. And sure enough, when I did start cleaning up those lifestyle factors, beating depression became about 300 times easier. And I think when we're depressed, we can turn to those things like it's a comfort food or whatever and build those bad habits. But if we realize actually the importance of this thing, the importance of the gut to the health of the brain, if everybody understood that, I think everybody would eat fresh, natural food as much as they possibly could. High horse off.
Can you actually hear me over the sound of that?
I can't hear that.
Oh, good. It's so loud, but I'm glad I got my headphones in then. They're like, I think they're chainsawing or jet washing, or maybe both. I don't know. But
maybe they're jet washing a chainsaw.
Because the pub is getting ready to open for the 12th of. So they're like chainsawing up benches, they're jet washing the decking, and I don't know what they're doing. But anyway, I think that you highlighted something really important. And it's a shame that we don't have the whole group here, because I like the dynamic going between the people. But that was basically, I broke it down for everyone and said, the biggest takeaway from gut is that we need to eat healthier. We need to eat less processed food. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter which piece of research links to which hormone, to which part of the digestive system. If it overwhelms you, don't worry about that. But you need to eat more fiber, more fresh fruit, vegetables, home cook your foods. So like they talk about the resistant starches and cooking rice, and then it's actually better if you cool it down. So if you can create a routine where you can prepare your rice and then you can create a healthy lunch the next day easily for yourself, because the rice has already been cooked. That's the hard part. Reheating rice doesn't take that long, but it takes a little bit of planning. So one of the things that we discussed together was identifying the way that we can make small changes to our lifestyles with the biggest impact, and changing one habit at a time. So where we've covered habits before, the power of habit in January, And that is one of the common themes throughout the sessions, is identifying what habits we're going to work on each month. From your previous lifestyle to your lifestyle now, had you tried to do that in one go? So how long ago was it that you had the depression and you were eating? So when you were at university, because it will have been a gradual improvement from then until now, I assume.
It was a bumpy improvement. So that was, it carried on a little bit after university. I would have been about 25 before I sort of came out of the depression and things. And during those periods, I would go up and down in sort of how I'm eating and stuff. And then it was around that age of 25 that I started getting interested in researching all this stuff again. I used to do this avidly, actually, before, when I was 15, 16. I used to love researching this stuff. And then I just kind of fell out with it because I was doing other things. But anyway, along the way, I've made wholesale changes that I made wholesale changes to my diet. I did this diet called the slow carb diet. And it was quite good, and it really agreed with me. It really did. I kept it going for 2.5 years. For 2.5 years, I was the thinnest I'd been in my adult life. I was probably as fit as I'd been in my adult life. But even after 2.5 years, I still fell back into my old habits, even after 2.5 years. And I believe it's because it was a wholesale change rather than being more natural about it. I mean, lately I've been literally tuning into my body, eating when I'm hungry rather than at whatever I believe the set times are, and just choosing whatever I think my body seems to want, which tends to be a lot of sort of green type vegetables. As you know, my love of kale, everybody knows my love of kale, I talk about it all the time. But kale, spinach, salad greens, carrots, all manner of berries or little oranges, grapes, and little bits of meat, little bits of fish, little bits of egg. These are the things I'm craving the most. So these are the things that I'm just eating. And I'm noticing that when I'm eating the foods that it's not even craving is not the right word. They just, when I think, what do I want to eat? What does my body need right now? That's the answer it's given me. And I'm finding that doing it this way, it's much, much easier. But the other thing was I didn't just do that, like stop eating all the garbage that I once upon a time ate. At the time, I was getting a lot of information, learning a lot of new things. Gut was one of those places that I'm getting that information from as well right now. But so as I'm learning and thinking, I'm just going to change one thing at a time. So I'm just going to take out one bad thing and put in one good thing. And like, for example, I used to be terrible with the biscuits, which most people know about. I talk about that a lot. And I replaced it with carrot sticks. Literally, I'll get a bag of carrots and I'll chop a load up, put them in a Tupperware. They're in my fridge. And so if the biscuit habit tries to run, I get up, I walk over to the biscuit cupboard where my biscuits are now one shelf higher. So I can't just reach for them mindlessly. I've got to think about it. And then I realize, nope, I'm going to the fridge instead. And so I do, and I get a carrot stick. And that's persisted for ages now. In fact, I don't recall the last time I ate a biscuit because I just don't want one. Like, I genuinely do not want one. But I kind of did that with various different bad habits. I had to do that with crisps because crisps was a terrible thing for me. I had to have at least one bag a day. After taking them out, because the fact of the matter is it's not food. Crisps really aren't food. They are just processed, fried things. Essentially, it's a drug. And so I was addicted to that drug of crisps. So it was actually quite recently I thought, I want to taste my favorite crisp and see what it tastes like to me. It was horrible. It was horrible. It left me like, honestly, it was just absolutely awful. So once I conquered those two, because they were my two biggies, once they were conquered, the rest of the dominoes fell. It became very easy to just say, I'm just going to eat things that I feel fuel my body. So I don't tend to eat for pleasure. I don't tend to eat for comfort. I eat to fuel my body. I've got enough comfort, joy, and pleasures and other things.
That's a really important part to, like, so you mentioned the craving and like how crisps become like a drug, and that is the habit, like the are they addictive, or is it a habit? But if you're seeking pleasure, comfort, to alleviate boredom, whatever it is, the habit forms with a positive intention. And so you were finding that from something through the crisps, but now you've identified that you don't actually need crisps to provide you with that. None of us do. Nobody needs crisps in their diet, or biscuits. It's okay to eat them. I'm not telling people never eat crisps again, never eat biscuits again. I eat both occasionally. I do also have to be aware that they are very easy to overconsume because of their hyperpalatability. They are full of carbs, starches, fats, so the crisps, but most people prefer the sweet because it's sugar. You get that instant hit, so it does light up the areas in the brain that make you go, oh, this is good, when actually it's doing no good to your health overall. It's doing no good to your gut, as we're discussing gut, but it provides you with no nutrients other than calories. So if you were starving, yes, you'd be better off eating them, but we're not. Well, hopefully you're not, if you're like that, but there are so many alternatives, but it's the addressing the underlying response. So I don't know, what did you do to address the underlying, like you said, it doesn't provide you with pleasure anymore. How did you overcome that?
So I overcame it with education. So I'm actually doing a program called Freedom from Sugar Addiction at the moment, which has it's been so filled with information that it's really massively changed my view on it. And it's one of those things, it's like a bit of a drip feed. And like, as I've been doing the program, the overwhelming message has been, don't deliberately change your diet. Don't deliberately change your diet. Keep eating the things you've been eating and just see where your mind takes you. And apart from, like I say, I deliberately did it with the biscuits and the crisps because I just felt I had to. But with everything else, it has just happened automatically. I've stopped wanting those, as you said, those foods with no nutrients. So if it's got no nutrients, it can't really be a food. So that's how I'm looking at it now. And why would I want to put that into my body at all? It's really interesting, actually, as well, because the other thing that is done, and this has been a godsend for my gut and my brain as well, is I've always liked alcohol. Now, I've never years, yeah, I have, but not for a few years now. I don't drink to massive excess when I'm drinking. What I mean by that is I don't get to the point where I'm drunk. But I've always, just a habit I've had my whole life. But sort of studying all this non-nutritional stuff, like why would you want that? One day I was just sat there. Actually, I wasn't sat there. I was in my kitchen. I was actually listening to the Gut audiobook at the time. And I paused it because an epiphany came up because both these things were happening at the same time in my life. And I thought to myself, why would I want to continue consuming something that can A, slow my thoughts down, and B, is such a massive disruptor to the gut when I've had so many issues with my gut?
Yeah.
And so that's really put me off of consuming alcohol now, because there's no purpose to it whatsoever for me. I know people like to socially drink and stuff, and that's cool. I've got no problem with that. But it's just not for me anymore.
I haven't had a drink this year yet. So we're the last day of March. Yes. But that is actually a fairly common behaviour pattern for me because of the fighting. I used to fight it, so I wouldn't drink when training, but I don't miss it at all. It is a social habit, and but then we also convince ourselves that it does something positive for us.
Yeah.
Like smoking, just like anything, we think, oh, it helps us relax, oh, it makes us feel good, oh, it's nice, like it alters the way our brain is operating, and we like that feeling. But do we really? Does it actually, same as the crisp, same as anything, it is just a habit, unless it has actually become a physical addiction, alcohol.
Yeah, which that can happen with alcohol. Yeah.
But if you are socially drinking, habitually drinking, and it isn't increasing in volume, it's safe to say that it is just a habit. It is something that you can either do or not do, but you're deciding that, subconsciously deciding that, I like this, it gives me a reward. Even if you're consciously going, actually, I'd prefer not to be doing that. So everybody's done it with something where part of your brain is going, oh no, I shouldn't be eating more crisps, I'm supposed to be losing weight. But subconsciously it's going, oh no, this gives me pleasure. And so that's where you get that conflict. But by educating yourself, so it sounds like by educating yourself through reading the gut, through doing other programs, through the hypnotherapy as well, that will help you massively. So, and so you've realized that you can intuitively listen to what your body needs. That's something that you've said a couple of times. And I am a big advocate of intuitive eating, but after the education, because there's so many people out there promoting intuitive eating is the way, get rid of diet plans, get rid of nutrition advice, just eat intuitively. If you don't know what you should be eating and you have a lifetime of bad habits, so to say, your intuition isn't trained. The damage has been done, the habits have been formed, however you want to word it. You have to then re-educate yourself consciously and subconsciously. So that's what you've done over many, many years. Like you said, when you were a teenager, you were reading about the neuroscience. I know that you've spent a lifetime learning about, and same as me, I still have to learn more to work out how we can do this best, to work out how I can help other people do this best. Gut has just identified there's so much more to learn, and it is exciting that we can continue to do it. But going full circle back round into how it can help with the depression, the anxiety, and the gut brain connection in how it affects our mindset and our mental health as well as our physical health. So we all know that it makes us feel sluggish, and that is a combination of the two. It's the digestion and the physical process of having to consume, like digest all of these foods that we've consumed, and it also has the reaction in the brain. So the way that we can simply help address that is by removing these foods, by removing the crisps, the biscuits, the sweets, the chocolate, and replacing them with the healthier whole foods, but not stressing ourselves out about the, oh no, I ate biscuits, I did a bad thing, because then that guilt will then lead you to overconsume more. And this is what I have been spending most of this year looking into so far. So you said about the Freedom from Sugar program. I've been looking into like the Kick Your Cravings and really working out what causes cravings and how do we overcome them. So combining the nutrition knowledge with the hypnotherapy and finding ways, because they're real. We all get cravings. It is something that, how often do you experience cravings, Glenn? Just out of interest.
Now I don't, but I used to experience them absolutely tons, because number one, I was consuming those things that I was craving, so I'm going to get more cravings for them. That's the time I'm getting them. But as I was working through, like as I've been working through the program, I haven't finished it yet, learning a lot of things about how cravings are created in the first place. Like there's varying different aspects to it. So there's the aspect of, let's just say, because let's go with refined sugar, because that's introduced into every child's life really early.
Yeah.
You're born and you're in a perfect balanced state, if you like. You're fed like breast milk or whatever. You stay in your perfect balanced state. That's your natural food. You get weaned, you start eating foods, you're in a perfect natural state. Then you get some refined sugar and that spikes something. And so now you go below perfectly balanced and you're looking for that thing to get you back up to perfectly balanced. That's one basis for a craving right there. And another one is the societal conditioning. And this one is a fun one for me. I love looking into this further.
Yeah.
It's the idea that everywhere you look, every second advert on TV, the way shops are laid out, I always think of my local co-op when I think about this. Food's got magical properties. Chocolate is the ultimate pleasure. Alcohol makes you cool.
Yep. I've got a really example of this, sorry to interrupt, but when I was training to fight at one point, and I don't know if you've heard this story before, but I was YouTubing fight songs, so what to walk out to. And I remember now the song that it was that had the advert attached, but it was The Darkness, I believe in a thing called Love. And I didn't consciously register it to begin with. So I'd done that, gone off, and I was like, I really, really want dark chocolate digestive biscuits. Obviously, I can't eat dark chocolate digestive biscuits. I have to lose weight. I have to fight. I have to optimize my performance. Why do I really, really want them? Go back a few days later, going back through YouTube again. The dark chocolate digestive advert came up when they had kittens rolling about with them, like out of the. So it's been proven that kittens and puppies and people smiling release the chemicals in the brain that make us feel happy, alongside the fact, so I'm linking kittens with chocolate biscuits around the heightened emotion of fighting. So it's gone, boom, this is what you want. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful. And that happens subconsciously. We're not even aware of it.
And we've got a lifetime of that. That's how conditioned we are. We've got a lifetime of that conditioning. It's been everywhere. It's been on the adverts, but also we've been sharing it amongst ourselves, because we'll tell people, oh yeah, my favorite chocolate is this, it makes me feel so good. Our families will have told us that when we get, like, all of that stuff in school, everywhere we go, everybody's got this belief that's been drummed in that all of these hyper processed things make you feel good. And so we gravitate towards them because it's in our subconscious our whole life. But yeah, they don't. All they do is mess with our balance. And you get enough sugar, you'll get back to that full, perfect, feeling great. But what's going to happen after you've had that enough sugar to get you back up there? Well, everybody's heard of the sugar crash. And that's it for me as well. Like, natural foods do not create a crash. I could eat all the fruit in the world and I will still, well, not all the fruit in the world, I'll obviously kill myself, but you know,
That would be
there's no point where
impressive.
fruit gives you a sugar high, unless it's one of these ridiculously high sugar fruits that probably wasn't really meant to be in our food source in the first place. But
Well, it is possible now because we can just pick up all the fruit in the world from the supermarket.
yes, yeah,
And that's without going into the smoothies and the juicing processes. But if you go back to prehistorically, where we would have to go gather the fruit, where we would have to gather enough fruit to feed a tribe, and we would have to consume that fruit split between everybody in that tribe, because there's only so many berries on a berry bush, and you might want to dry some of those berries as well because you only have them in season. And so I was listening to a podcast about this, how we have all fruit through all, we can get it from wherever in the world. We can eat strawberries and bananas and avocados throughout the whole year. They don't grow in this country. Strawberries do. Bananas and avocados we would never have, but strawberries we would only have for a couple of months in summer, and they would be a delicacy. And yes, they would light up that part of our brain, but it's such a small part of our life that it wouldn't have become a problem. Now when we're doing it, so with the strawberries mixed with the yogurt, mixed with all of the honey, and that's our healthy breakfast that we then eat a chocolate bar with, that's too much sugar in 1 2-hour time frame.
yeah, massively. And that's it right there. That's one of the big problems that we've got. Everything is so available. But actually, I was watching a YouTube video. A guy calls himself Thoughty2. He's got some fascinating stuff, but he just happened to be covering food sources this one day. So I thought, oh, that looks good. I'm going to watch that. And what he's talking about is the human food, like the foods that were in our food chain. There were thousands of them, but obviously we were nomadic at this time. So when the food's done here, when that season changes, and this place no longer bears fruit or creates food, we move to another place where the food is now going to be plentiful in that season. So we weren't particularly picky in terms of all the different plants stuff we could eat. Like, and because we were doing it on instinct then rather than on what adverts had told us, then instinctual eating was easy.
Yeah.
And so everybody ate on instinct. They knew what was good for them, they knew what was poisonous, all that stuff. But we had thousands of foods, and that's why we had flourishing gut bacteria. But even though supermarkets are full, we've got it down to only a few hundred now. And the other problem, of course, is the one you've just highlighted. It's not just the natural food sources in a part of the world anymore. We're bringing them from everywhere.
And it's the farming conditions. So those natural foods that would have been eaten, well, even the foods we were eating 50 years ago from local farming or like national farming, regional, and then 200 years ago when it was arable farming, I don't know what the terms are, but we now mass produce these crops of really low quality soil. Yeah. And it's devastating to the earth, but it's also devastating to our health, because the plants can't have the nutrients if the soil doesn't have the nutrients. If those plants are feeding the animals, they don't have the nutrients. It's just this vicious circle of this needs to be broken. We need to correct the cycle of how we produce food.
Completely agree.
We actually discussed that on Sunday. We were discussing how supporting locally, and that's one of my biggest business goals actually, and like financial, all the goals. So personal, health, business, all of them. I want to be able to buy fully locally, support local farmers, local butchers, mainly the vegetables. I don't eat a lot of meat, but I want to only be buying local produce. But it is a lot more expensive. So
Yes.
there's some, and then how can you say somebody's unethical if they cannot afford it? Because it's not their fault. I don't know what the right terminology is here, but if somebody cannot afford to support local, but if more people did support them, the prices would drop down, but the supermarkets have the monopoly. So everybody is financially invested in supporting the supermarkets because it saves them so much money, because it is so much cheaper. So you have to have a really strong ethic towards supporting locally to be able to do it. So that was an interesting topic too. We've gone way off now, but this is what I like, and this is why I like discussing it in the group, because we all input different things. But I'm enjoying discussing this with you too, because I know you have similar views to me and a similar level of knowledge about these subjects.
Yeah, it's good fun, isn't it? It is good when you got the whole group though, and we can bounce off everybody, because each topic there will be somebody in the group that knows more than the rest, and then a different topic somebody knows more about that. So I love doing that. I love the way we bounce around through that.
I am pleased you helped your daughter instead of attending though. I'll just add that in there. Like we obviously, when we run it, life comes up. Sometimes you can't attend. So that's why we're doing this now, obviously, to catch up on the discussion so you don't miss out on it. But
Absolutely.
oh, I love it. And I love the dynamic of discuss, because everybody takes a different part away from it. So like when you highlighted about the saliva, I was like, oh yeah, that was really those little bumps. And I never really wondered what I thought they was to do with our teeth, and how our teeth, they're like wearing against our teeth or something, and the structure of our jaw. If you'd asked me, Jess, why do you have these bumps? I wouldn't have said to produce saliva. Now I know that though. So,
Yeah,
and
cool.
also now I know like about how our tonsils are actually only one tiny part of our tonsillar tissue, and how our appendix is actually linked to our tonsillar tissue and is actually linked to our immune system. And I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Fascinating, isn't it? Absolutely.
Anyway, is there anything else that you'd like to discuss about the book?
Not right now, because I'm going to have to finish up because I got a client in 10 minutes. But it's been lovely talking about this. That's part of the fun, isn't it, though? The way we sort of tangent all over the place into various topics.
I think a couple of weeks ago, where everyone is a bit overwhelmed by gut, we spent nearly the whole session discussing Australian animals. So in a book club about gut, but Amy's from Australia, and
Yes.
we discussed where we'd got to, and like a little bit about maybe some part of the chapter or something, but then we just went off on this tangent. But I learned so much about Australian animals that day, so that was fun. Before we go, do you have a habit or a goal that you are working on this month? And I'll write it down and I'll add it into our list for the group for April. Just something tiny that you are planning to do.
Let me think. I haven't really thought about this yet.
Put you on the spot.
You have, yes. Ooh, shocking stuff. What habit or goal?
Or something that you're already doing, that you're working on, that you want to continue doing because it's going well and you want to reaffirm it. It doesn't have to be completely new. It can be, I don't know. I won't suggest. I'll let you decide.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to find 10 new people to teach this month.
10 new people to teach. That's a good one. I like that. 10 new people to teach. Anything in particular that you want to teach them?
Hypnotherapy.
New people to teach hypnotherapy. I like it. It's nice and specific too. Right, and I'll let you go because I know you've got a client. And thank you. It's been lovely to chat.
It has been awesome.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you for inviting me.